how did you come to Fire Island? How did you come to the Pines?
I came.
In what year?
I first came to the Pines in 2002. My friend Matt, who I've been DJing at parties, and he'd been coming for years. He just took me here, and I instantly fell in love. What's not to fall in love with? I'm always obsessed with the ideas of community and taking care of your neighbor, and I really found that to be the first thing that drew me to Fire Island, was knowing everybody, smiling, and like taking care of people. And parties.
Right. But at that point, were you a DJ? Where were you in your life as a career?
Well, that's a good question, actually. I was well, when I first came here as a DJ was several years later. Actually, like kind of had it with New York City. I was like literally going to quit DJing. I was just so frustrated with what the scene was offering. And then my first time I DJed in Fire Island, I remember I did Low T, and it was 2006. And like the dance floor, I remember it was like there were 17-year-olds and there were like 80-year-olds, and I was like, this is exactly what I want, you know. So
well, how did that come about? How did you end up DJing on the Pines? Like, what was your credentials that got you through the door?
Oh, I always...
Because it is, in most DJ, I have found in my experience of talking to DJs, it's a notch in the headboard of a DJ to say, I DJed on Fire Island. So how did you get here?
Oh, Sean Patrick Ryan, who many of you know, he was the right-hand man to one of the old property owners, Eric von Kirsteiner. He used to come to my parties. We're the same age, at Limelight and Avalon with John Blair. So he just was like, come on in, Vito. Like, he always loved me, and he's always like friendly, and so he brought me in and didn't even bat an eye. And
what was your experience level at that point as a DJ?
I mean, I think I was very inexperienced, actually. I'd just been DJing a lot of like kind of twink-ish parties. But I feel like if you want to grow as a DJ, you should always feel that you're inexperienced, you know? Like, you can plateau and say, I don't want to learn anymore, but why would you do that? Like, for me, it's like, I want to keep learning. I want to, like, go to different countries and go to different places. I want to hear how people understand music, and so I was inexperienced, but I would give you the same answer now. I'm inexperienced.
Right, so going into, and I remember this slightly.
No, you came up to me. You were the first person.
I did.
Absolutely.
Because Low T is about classic music.
Yeah.
And I remember very vividly saying this guy wasn't even born when some of this classic music happened.
But, you know, like I always took the onus on myself to educate myself about music. So, like, I remember, like, that first time I was playing like 80 songs and 70 songs and songs that maybe I wasn't even familiar with the complete context with, but I understood why people enjoyed them. And now, like, I try to familiarize myself with the context. I remember you requested, I think, like, I may not remember what you requested, but I was playing Erasure and Dolly Parton and stuff like that, and I feel that Fire Island hadn't been exposed to that kind of like the Low T scene hadn't been exposed to like the pop sensibility of like a classic set and a pop sensibility, meaning just like kind of playing one song at a time. So that was like something different a little bit, and maybe it had, but people seemed to react differently, and everyone was saying this has never happened here. So I was like, all right, let's do it. Like, let's go for it.
Well, classic T is always about reinvention. I mean, it is about classics, but every DJ needs to bring their own stamp.
Yeah.
To classic T, which most of them do.
I agree.
So you came under that realm of Eric.
Yeah.
And so what was that experience like with which I have spoken to Eric. We're going to be doing our interview this winter. I say to Eric, you are part of this history. There is absolutely no way I would not include you in it. So your realm of time that you had this, it needs to be recognized.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Like, well, Eric, I love Eric, and Eric was he took like, I think Fire Island is very much, the ways that people do things here is very set, and Eric took just the right amount of risk as an owner in trying new things. And when I came, you know, there was no pavilion scene It was no middle T. There was a pavilion night scene, but it was still the old pavilion, and there was no pavilion. There was no middle T, but he kind of just was like, oh, well, we had this extra DJ booked for all these nights. But yeah, do whatever you want. So he gave me the keys to the kingdom and said, if it works, it works. And it worked like right away. So he recognized it and just said, we'll go with this. And then,
Wait, let's take a step back. Because you were here during the renovation of the pavilion when it was slightly, it was reinvented, and yes, it was a late night club. It was all about late night in the 80s, 90s, and that all has somewhat changed. So here you were, they redid this whole space, really not knowing how it was all going to work. I mean, they changed it radically. I mean, that middle T space, everybody always loved the balcony overlooking, and they still talk about it 8 million times on my site.
I love the balcony.
And I do love the balcony.
I was honored to do the last middle T, last year of the old pavilion.
But let's talk about the evolvement of middle T, because middle T was initially called
Party Pavilion. Party at the Pavilion.
And that's how it started. And it was sort of unique because at the same time we still had the high T.
Yeah.
So it was sort of competitive with high T. It was, people left low T, they went to high T. That was something that was an established thing. So how did Party at the Pavilion evolve? How did it, how did that come about?
Well, I think it definitely evolved because of people's desire to get their weekday stresses out earlier, like to completely, the thing about, you can DJ, when you DJ with like in a dark room with a light person, it's like day and night versus DJing in a place where everyone can see you, because the light person helps you DJ, like dance like no one's watching, and drink like no one's looking, and like make out with whoever, and that urge to get that experience out, was really like, it was a demand for it, like people want that early, and I kind of brought the pop sensibility to the night scene. And I mean, I love New York, I grew up here, but I don't really think New York is absolutely like the forefront of making like the best music and the best DJs in the entire world, to be honest. I mean, there are a lot of good DJs I love, and I would never say anything bad about, but it's not about New York anymore. It's a global scene, and New York has a small piece of it, and like a lot of cities have big scenes, and I think that I can't honestly tell you if 2006 what the Pavilion nights were like, because I was just beginning to familiarize myself with the history of this place. Right. But I can tell you what they were like in 2007 with the new Pavilion. They just weren't. People kind of rejected like the box-ish architecture of the place, and so I mean it's like the gay clubs work well when they have people have dark corners. They can tell a secret in, whatever their secret is. So, and it's like, the Pavilion really needs the light guy to give you those